He used one word. That word was temporarily. It's been 54 years. He never reversed it. Folks, this is not a story about economics. This is a story about the most powerful system ever built. A system so invisible, so total, that the people living inside it absolutely never knew it fully existed. A system that decided which nations could prosper, which currencies would matter, which leaders would be allowed to stay in power, and what happened to the ones who tried to leave it. After World War II, the world made a deal. Simple, clean, and ambiguous. Every dollar was actually backed by gold. Real gold sitting in vaults at Fort Knox. So let's say you held dollars and you didn't trust the United States of America, you could hand them back and receive the precious metal instead. That guarantee, that was the foundation of global trade for 25 long years. The vault at Fort Knox held over 20,000 tons of gold after the World War II. Then America quietly started spending money it didn't fully have. Vietnam, the Cold War, the Great Society programs building military bases across 40 different countries. By 1977, the United States had printed far more dollars than it actually had gold to back them. And the claims against it were far larger than that. France was one of the first countries to actually figure this out. President de Gaulle called it America's exorbitant privilege, the right to print the world's money. He started sending France back to Washington and demanding gold in return. Other countries followed. The game was almost over. On August 11th, 1971, 4 days before the speech, Britain asked America to transfer $3 billion in gold from the Fort Knox to the Federal Reserve in New York. Paul Volcker, the Undersecretary of the Treasury, understood what this development actually meant. He later wrote that if the British, who had founded the system with us, were going to take gold for their dollar, the game was indeed over. On August 13th, Nixon summoned 15 advisors to Camp David. They were told, no phones, no staff, tell no one where you're actually going. They had about 48 hours to decide what to do with the global financial system. On August 15th, 1971, Nixon interrupted Bonanza, the most popular show on the American television, to give a 15-minute address. He blamed international money speculators. He called it a defensive measure. He said it was temporary. He later went on to suspend the dollar's convertibility to gold, the 44-nation agreement that had held the world together since 1944. Just ended in 15 minutes without a vote, without a warning, without asking anyone. The dollar had actually lost its anchor. Inflation surged, global trust collapsed. The world needed to know, what is a dollar actually worth? Henry Kissinger actually had an answer. In June 1974, he flew to Saudi Arabia. The public deal was straightforward: a joint economic commission, technology transfers, infrastructure cooperation, and diplomatic language. The real deal, however, happened later. Treasury Secretary William Simon flew to Riyadh. His instructions were clear: leave no public trace. What was agreed in those meetings stayed a secret for 41 long years. In 2016, Bloomberg News filed a Freedom to Information request. They found the diplomatic cables buried in national archives. This is what they went on to actually reveal. Saudi Arabia would take the billions of dollars it earned from oil sales and invest them in US Treasury bonds, quietly, through a special arrangement that actually hid Saudi holdings from the public treasury data that every other nation was actually required to report. King Faisal had only one condition: keep the amounts a secret. Washington agreed. In exchange, the American military gave them protection, advanced weapons, a security guarantee for the House of Sauds. Oil would be only priced in dollars, revenue would flow back into American debt, and the US military would protect the oil fields that fundamentally made all of this possible. Kissinger called it the Petrodollar recycling, and within 12 months, every OPEC nation had actually followed Saudi Arabia's lead. The dollar had now found its new gold, not in a vault this time, but in an oil well. Think about what this actually created. Let's say you are Japan, right? And you need oil. To get oil, you need to get dollars first. And to get dollars, what you actually do is you trade goods and services with the United States of America. Now, to keep the dollar stable, you hold US treasury bonds, and those treasury bonds go on to fund the American military, which go on to protect the oil fields, which fundamentally, like already explained, is keeping this cycle running. Every nation on earth, regardless of its policies, regardless of its relationship with Washington, was locked inside the system because energy is not optional. Now, this gave the United States of America a power no empire in history actually possessed. Not territories, not armies, not even nuclear weapons, control of the infrastructure of the global trade itself. And like every other system of power, it had an enforcement mechanism. In 2012, the United States and the European Union cut off Iran from SWIFT, the global messaging network that connects every bank on earth. Overnight, Iran could not receive any international payments, could not sell oil, could not access its own foreign currency reserves. No bombs, no invasion, just the denial of access to the dollar system. Unspoken, never written down, but completely understood. But here is what understood actually means in practice. Three leaders actually tried to leave the dollar system. Let's look at what happened to them. Iraq, November 2000, Saddam Hussein announced Iraq would now price its oil in euros. The stated reason? To protest American sanctions. So he switched. March 2003, the United States of America invaded Iraq. By May, Iraqi oil sales had returned to dollars. The WMD justification was later proven false. The currency switch was absolutely real. Libya in 2009. Muammar Gaddafi proposed a gold-backed African currency, the gold dinar, to replace dollars and euros in the African oil trade. He had held about 144 tons of gold, and they actually spent years building coalitions for this one particular idea. 144 tons of gold. They had it all. 2011, NATO forces, with the American backing of course, intervened in Libya's civil war. October 2011, Gaddafi was dead. The gold dinar died with him. French foreign minister stated in a television interview that the intervention had been planned before the Arab Spring provided a clear justification on the matter. Venezuela 2018, Nicolas Maduro launched a state cryptocurrency backed by Venezuelan oil reserves, explicitly designed to circumvent the US dollar dominance and evade the sanctions. He deepened ties with Russia and China. He moved Venezuelan oil trade outside the dollar system entirely. January 2026, the American forces operating in the region captured Maduro. Three leaders, three continents in 3 different decades. Each made a financial decision to leave the dollar. Each one removed within 3 years. Now, you can go ahead and call this a coincidence, or you can actually look at the dates. In June 2024, the 50-year arrangement between the United States of America and Saudi Arabia was due for renewal. There was no press conference, no Bloomberg alert, no prime time podcast. Saudi Arabia simply did not go on to renew the agreement. Since then, Riyadh has publicly stated that it will accept Chinese yuan, euros and digital currency for its oil. The country that anchored the entire system for 50 years just walked away quietly. And the infrastructure to replace it is already running. A platform called mBridge, built by China, UAE and Hong Kong, specifically to move money without touching the SWIFT or the dollar system entirely. $55 billion, that's how much money they actually processed in March 2026 alone. On March 15, 2026, 4 weeks ago, 2 oil tankers settled their transaction through the Strait of Hormuz in Chinese yuan, not dollars. No announcement, no alarm bells, just 2 ships, 2 trades, and the quiet beginning of what is going to be coming next. The petrodollar didn't feel like a system, it actually felt like gravity. The price of everything you've ever bought, the mortgage you pay, the salary you earn, the interest rate on your debt, the foreign policy of your government, all of it shaped by an arrangement made in a Riyadh meeting room that the public wasn't supposed to know at all. Now that particular system, ladies and gentlemen, is ending, not with a crash, not with a war, the same way it actually began. quietly in rooms you're not invited into, by people who understand that the most powerful decisions in history are made before anyone knows a decision is actually being made. The dollar is not dead. I'm not trying to convey this as a message. I want to be precise and I'm going to be honest that the dollar still dominates as a currency. It still matters. But for the very first time in 50 years, the architecture underneath it is being rebuilt. And the only question that matters and the question that we should be asking is who is going to go on to build the next system. Because whoever does will have the same power that America had for the last 50 years. That question is what this channel exists to answer.